I have been doing a lot of product photography lately, and this has involved me really getting out of my comfort zone and using different lighting situations, which I am very new to. So I thought it would be helpful if I ran through some of the shoots that I've done recently, show you examples, run through the gear that I use, which involves flash, and then other types of exterior lighting that I have been working with lately. Also, I got a new camera. I'm very excited about it, so stick around to the end of the video and I will tell you what it is. Before we get started, I think it might be helpful to very quickly and briefly just preface the types of flash and lighting that I have been using in my shoots. Obviously, there is a huge range of it, and I am definitely no expert, but I think it is great to learn from someone who is also learning themselves. The signature type of lighting that I like to use and go for is direct flash on a point and shoot. If you've been watching the channel for a while and you follow me on Instagram, you will know this is like my absolute go-to. But I have found that it gets a lot of hot spots, which can be a vibe and I'm here for. But the type of stuff I've been doing lately that's like a little bit more high end, a little bit more elevated, it doesn't always work and it kind of brings it down. So that is where something like off-camera flash will come into play, because we can work with the direction of the light more to combat things like hotspots. I did run through this in my last video briefly, but this is the sort of off-camera flash vibe that I would go for film. I'd use a cable. It's a bit clunky. You kind of need a second person there with you. And then obviously digitally you can do this wirelessly, but I do think that this just gives such a cool look and definitely very, very different to using direct flash. Another type of lighting that I will, or flash that I will use, is mounted on the top and then putting it up like this to bounce it off, say the roof or, you know, like the wall or something like that, which initially I was kind of like, oh, is that really going to do anything? But you can really, really tell. And I think it's super helpful when you're learning to actually see what something is doing. I'm a person that needs to see that. So seeing it with and without, and then realizing what a difference it makes, and taking note of that situation and knowing that that's the kind of flash that you would need for that photo is really great. A little bit of a show and tell here today. So you can also use things like these ones to modify your flash. So again, I kind of was like, it's not really going to do anything, but it 100% does. It just softens it, which isn't something I like in my personal photography, but for some brands who maybe don't want that harsh flash look, this can be really, really great. And I have some examples that I will run through where we used this guy here and got some really great results. So stick around. Also, I broke a nail. Oh my God, content creator worst nightmare. So I have this really ugly band-aid on and it's killing me because my hands are in everything. So I apologize. I'm actually going to go out today and buy some like cute colored band-aids so that it's more of a vibe. Moving on from flash, we have continuous light. So obviously that's just on all the time. Sometimes when you hear these things and you don't know what they are, like, ooh, what's that? But it's literally just like in the name. And now I know that, I'm like, oh, okay, self-explanatory. So we have a light on now to my right. I'm really bad with left and right. And it's just under an umbrella, so it's like diffusing it, but that's continuous lighting. And then on the other side, we have a softbox, which is like that big kind of dome thing. And that is also classed as continuous lighting and is something we use all the time in our reels, video, when we go on site to film in restaurants or with business owners. It is something that we have been using as well. And again, you can really see the difference when you bring that extra light in. Using things like these portable LED lights as well. These are by SmallRig, and these are, very easy to take with you on location and use as a bit more of like a lo-fi thing, but they're quite strong and you can sort of like turn them down. Whereas the other two that I mentioned before are very cumbersome and big. So we used this a few times when we were filming in very like low light situations, but you can also use it for photography too. Setting it off to the side to just give some extra light and some mood is really great as well. So there's so many options, too many options for me to go through and for me to be the authority on, clearly. But let's talk about some of the shoots that I have done recently and share those with you so you can see these types of lighting in action. At the start of the year, I did a shoot for Freak Skincare, who wanted to rebrand and have a more like luxury feel to the photos. So I was really excited to like, create the mood board, style the whole thing. I love doing that. But of course, you need to execute it. So we decided to go with a mixture of our F100 with the speed light, which we have used on many shoots before because we know that that's reliable. We used a combination of direct and also bounce flash. We did this shoot in my mum's bathroom. Came out looking pretty good. And we also used our new Canon EOS 7, which has a little pop-up flash, and we just used that directly, of course. The reason that we used both of these was because I really wanted the direct flash look so that things really popped, but I was a little bit worried because the bottles are glass and they're sort of reflective, which is something that happens with perfume bottles. Perfume bottles are like an absolute nightmare to shoot lighting-wise and flash-wise. So we have learned from our mistakes in the past, and we wanted to also bring in some off-camera flash so we could bounce it from the roof so it was coming from a different angle so that we could avoid all of that. And I think that we made the right decision. I'm really, really happy with this shoot. It's actually featured in a Clean Beauty magazine, which is really cool, 2 of our images. And yeah, I think this shoot came out really awesome, and we didn't use anything too elaborate and we didn't bring any like continuous lighting in, but definitely the angle and the direction of your light is like such a big thing and can just make such a huge difference in your photos. At the end of last year, we had the pleasure of working with Meehan Aromatics, which are a boutique Melbourne perfume house, and they wanted us to shoot their campaign shoot, which is always a really cool thing to work on. So this is being used across all their socials, their emails, and then is also being sent out to all of their stockists all over the world. So like cool places in Europe have received these photos and are using them. So I'm very, very proud and excited. I absolutely loved this shoot. The brief was kind of like a 70s feel, and you know that I love anything retro. So I was just feeling like this was the perfect shoot for me. This one was quite diverse and in different locations. It was quite a big shoot, to be honest with you, and there was a lot of product. So I did feel really, really overwhelmed, even though I was excited about it when I looked at everything that I had. For this, we used F100 again with flash, and then I also used my Canon Rebel G because we didn't have the EOS 7 at that time, and I feel very comfortable with the Rebel G. So there was a lot of things going on here. We were shooting indoors in a house that didn't have a lot of natural light, so mainly for those we were using flash just to really make it pop and give it a bit of vibrancy. They wanted kind of saturated like colors and things like that in their images, so I knew flash would be really good. And then we did shoot outside by the pool, which obviously was just naturally lit beautifully in the sun, in the midday sun. It was very hot, so we didn't need anything for that. And then I got super creative at home and I used F100 with this 60mm 2.8 macro lens, which works so well for product photography. I think if you're doing any type of like producty kind of photography, especially in like the beauty perfume realm, it's really great to have a macro lens because then you just don't have to worry about how close you can get, and you can create some kind of really like cool abstract looking shots as well. So I decided to get Lux's new signature J Mascis guitar that he got for Christmas and use that because it has like gold like plating underneath like the fretboards. Can you tell that I can't play guitar? And oh, here we go. It's being run in like I'm like in a band. Here it is. So I decided to use this because I really liked the gold, the beige, and the wood. I felt like it was super in keeping with that like 70s kind of feel. So yeah, I laid it down in front of a really big window in our room on this yellow chair that I'm sitting on actually. So I had to move a few things around. And I just thought, if I placed the little Discovery set, which is like the smaller bottles, which can be quite hard to shoot because they're so small and like dinky. So I put them between the strings and sort of standing up and on the fretboard, and then used like the little knobs, whatever these things are here, to like place in the foreground, and just got really super creative, but shot it all with natural light, which is a lot easier than when you're using flash because you don't have to sort of, think too much about how that's going to interact. And film and natural light always looks really, really good. Flash looks cool too, but it's not as kind of reliable as when you're, using it with natural light. So I love the way these came out. I am super, super, super in love with both the styling, the camera choice, and the lighting. We also saw Dinosaur Jr. Last weekend, and they were amazing. So good. That is Mihan Aromatics, and they were super happy with that shoot too, and we are going to work with them again in March to shoot their new scent that's coming out, so I'm very excited about that. We have really been working on a variety of different shoots both at the end of last year and the start of this year, and I'm finding that clients more and more are coming to me with like extra little bits that they want to add on, or shoots that they want to do that I am kind of at first wanting to say no to, but then thinking, can I master this? Can I offer this and make a little bit of extra money when you're already engaged with a client? Obviously, you still want to deliver a really good product, but I did something recently for Joe's Deli, some water bottles that they brought out, and they wanted a lifestyle shoot, which I was all over, and we did that on film, loved it. Something like that's really easy for me to execute because it's not super technical, but because they use me all the time, I'm kind of like the house photographer. They also wanted some product shots of the water bottles. That kind of raises my anxiety because when things are going to be used in like an e-commerce way, or like that very sort of, not sterile, but it needs to be bang on, I get a little bit nervous. I had ordered a few things like some photography, like flat lay paper that doesn't have any shine on it. And I had a little bit of an idea of how I was going to execute this shoot, but I really needed something else to just give me the confidence to actually deliver and charge for this type of photography. So finding this course on Skillshare for beginner product photography was really great because it explained in depth, but it was a beginner approach. So I didn't feel super, super overwhelmed because lighting can be really complicated if you want it to be. And I do feel like people kind of overload you with things and then you just feel paralyzed. So I really appreciated that this was just like the fundamentals, the basics of lighting, talking about the quality of your light, the direction of it, and then how that will affect your final image. Having someone run through all of those things and like the settings and actually seeing someone do it made me feel really confident that I could smash this shoot out. It also saved me a lot of time because in the past I haven't exactly known how to do something and I have tried and then had to go back and say, sorry, this isn't something that I can produce for you. And that makes you look like you aren't a multifaceted photographer, which we all kind of have to be today. So I appreciate the fact that I could just pick out the parts of this course that I needed to know and learn, apply them to my job, get it done quicker, and also build up my skills as a photographer in this day and age that, we need to be doing a million things, not just one. And then I know if another client asks me to do this type of product photography, I'm like, yes, I can do that because I know like the basics. And I also know that I have courses on Skillshare and a learning path that I can follow that will run through like from beginner to pro of things like photography, lighting, or whether it's like videography, pretty much anything in the creative professional realm, you will find a course on Skillshare. Plus, it helps me to diversify my offerings and say yes to more things this year, which is one of my goals. If you're looking for a way to build your skill set, break into a new industry, or start a side hustle, then Skillshare is the learning platform for you to try. With thousands of classes led by industry pros across film, illustration, design, freelance, and more, you can start a new learning journey today and it will benefit you tomorrow. So if you're being held back by a knowledge gap, then why not click the link below and try Skillshare for free? The first 500 people to use the link in my description below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So why not try today? A big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I've shared my film shoots with you, so now I want to talk about some digital ones that I've done. We did the Joe's Deli water bottles, which I just showed you. That was kind of a hybrid shoot. And then we did this one for Maison Martin, which are a Parisian perfume house. I'm just drowning in perfume over here, not complaining. This one we used digital because it had a tighter turnaround and it actually came out really banging. Like I love these images and they recently used them on Instagram and we might be working with them more in the future. So for this setup, we used this attached to our speed light with the D7100, so you can trigger the flash from the camera. We used our 60mm macro lens for this, and it was kind of a bit of a like ghetto setup, and when we were doing it I was like, I don't think this is gonna look very good, but then it ended up looking so amazing, which just proves that you don't need like a whole bunch of stuff or this huge setup. This was in our living room. So we used this in combination with the natural light that was coming in through the window. So they just worked together really nicely to just sort of enhance the natural light and make it really even, so we weren't getting any kind of like shadow across, just a little drop shadow from the bottle, which I think looks really good. We have these really awesome vintage orange side tables, so we used that. They are quite shiny, but this whole setup helped to like combat that. But we used them the same way you would use like flat lay, like colored card or something like that. So yeah, just another example of using natural light with flash. There's just so many options, and it's really fun to experiment. And I think if a job isn't super high stakes or you've already got all your shots in the bag, why not experiment with something different, or do it with things that are already in your home. Like Lux will often just photograph like his guitar pedals or something like that and try out like a new setting, so then we're ready for when we do get a job that might require that. But we're definitely keeping on our toes, because every time we get a job or a brief, it's slightly different and we learn something new. D700, amazing, so good. I'm so excited to review this camera. Circling right back to the point and shoot direct flash look, I honestly would never think that I would be sitting here in front of you with all this gear telling you about all these things that I've done, because I've always been really scared of flash and this has always just been like my comfort zone, but it is quite limiting. So I really encourage you to try one of these things or some continuous lighting. Don't forget, you can hit the link below and try out that course on product photography. Let me know if you have any more questions about product photography or the work that we have been doing. And if you have any questions about flash or what you guys use and love, because I'm sure that there's a lot of professionals watching who know a lot more than I do.